Don't look now, but there is new trouble in MAGA paradise between the two biggest, most powerful, best funded factions of the actual MAGA political movement. As a student of this movement, I can explain, and there's lots of coverage that plays out how the initial spark, the thing that brought this into public, was a disagreement over the issue of work permits called H-1B visas. They allow companies in the United States to hire foreign-born talent for specialized roles on a short-term basis. Steve Bannon's side and coalition is in one corner. Elon Musk's is pitted against them on the other side. It's a feud that boiled over on social media, one that escalated again over the weekend in the pages of none other than an Italian newspaper, of course. Steve Bannon attacking Elon Musk, suggesting this, quote, "He will not have full access to the White House. He will be like any other person." Quote, "He is a truly evil guy." This is Bannon saying this about Elon Musk. Quote, "A very bad guy. I made it my personal thing to take this guy down," end quote. Musk also said, Steve Bannon also said about Musk that he should, quote, "go back to South Africa." Quote, "Why do we have South Africans, the most racist people on earth, white South Africans? We have them making any comments at all on what goes on in the United States." Musk, for his part, has not responded to these comments publicly. Joining our conversation, someone who is oddly expert at all this, MSNBC political analyst Tim Miller, former RNC spokesman, now host of the Tremendous Bulwark podcast. Eddie's still here. So, Tim Miller, first, take me inside why Steve Bannon hates Elon Musk so much, and then talk a little bit about Musk's efforts to retaliate and take some of Bannon's allies off of the platform Musk runs, X.
Yeah, some of this goes back a long way. These guys were going at each other, I think, back in 2018. I think the interesting thing about this, Nicole, because you have to be judicious in discussing the MAGA infighting, because these are a lot of children and, having a food fight in a cafeteria at some level. And, Bannon's mad at so-and-so and so-and-so's mad at Bannon. It's kind of like, who cares at some point? But this one actually does matter because it is a fundamental rupture in the coalition. Like, for the coalition to survive, they need the nationalist Steve Bannon wing, which is I would call OG MAGA, the anti-immigrant, anti-trade, America first, if you will. That's sort of the Bannon lane, and then you have Musk, who is really a globalist at his core, but has kind of brought in these tech bros that were, radicalized by COVID or whatever. They might be quote unquote anti-woke, but they're not like meaningfully MAGA across all these policy issues. And Musk, in his case in particular, does business in China and is on the take from China, which again is fundamentally at odds with kind of the America First crowd that does not believe that the U.S. should be doing friendly business with China, doing friendly business with the world, that we should be decoupling from China. So here we have this fundamental fissure with kind of the Musk world, and now he's got Vivek with him and some other people, and Bannon, and they are going to this fight is not just about personalities. As policy gets implemented in the next Trump administration, this will be a what to the wall, all out to the wall fight between the Bannon world that does not want, the kind of corporate oligarchs to have power, and then the corporate oligarchs who do want to wield power over Trump. And it's also one where either side could really win, because while Trump might instinctively be more with the Bannon, he loves the attention of the rich guys. He loves having them around. He loves feeling like he has them at their fingertips. They just mentioned that press conference the other day. Zuckerberg came to see me. Gates came to see me. Bezos came to see me. This is the ego thing for Trump. So he might very well sell out his MAGA base and go with the oligarchs. And I think that could potentially cause him some political problems. So I think it's a very meaningful political feud.
Eddie, let me read you. Actually, let me play you some of what it sounds like, what you're hearing in MAGA world, this fight between Bannon and Musk.
He can't take criticism. One of his weaknesses is that he needs to be loved. He needs the masses to love him. You can tell he's on the stage. He needs that glory. He must have adoration. You can tell that. It lights him up. So then on the platform, when his apparatus turns against him, and particularly people that cheered him saying, hey, We hate what you're doing to this country. We know now that you're lying to us, bald-faced lie. These are not higher skilled people. When they turn, all of a sudden he has to go to what's the Chinese credit score. This is to have a digital ghetto and to only have raised up what praises him. That is like the little boy's mentality. If I want to be the superhero, I want to put the cape on and kind of skip around.
And it's a lot of words, and I think at the root of it, and I will admit to being a student of the movement, I think it's one of our best sort of tools as a pro-democracy side to really understand what fuels and animates and attracts voters to the MAGA movement. He's calling him a hypocrite. That's the accusation, and what, you think that could stick?
Perhaps. I mean, in some ways, it's an echo of those acolytes around Hitler who called the latecomers Septemberlings. You're really not an ideologue. You're just really transactional. And then on the other side of it, right, the Musks and the Ramaswamis and all this actually reveal the grifting side of Trumpism. Right. And this is a kind of nationalist movement. This is our country. And then there's the other side of it. He's not really a man. He called him a little boy.
Right.
He's not a manly man in some way.
I mean, I think there's something in here that's, effeminate too, right? When he's prancing around the stage.
Exactly. And then that line, he's the most racist of all. He's a racist South African. I was like, oh my God, isn't that the irony of all ironies?
I had my brain in it.
Exactly. So you have, again, what we talk, this collision of populist, right-wing populism and the corporatist. And they're all in MAGA world. And the question is, that's not an issue of personality. Those are ideological currents that have been at the heart of this movement from the beginning.
And just quickly, Tim, it matters because if you're going to weaken the movement, if you're going to weaken the lock on voters in Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, Ohio, if you're going to reshape an opposition movement, you have to peel off one side or the other. What is Steve Bannon's threat privately if Trump sides with Bezos and Musk and whatnot? I mean, do you have any sense of how far he's willing to take this feud?
Yeah, I mean, look, Steve Bannon's got a business to run too, but I think that he's willing to take it. I think that, look, we've seen this in other elections where people only turn out for Trump. This is part of the reason why. If Bannon and his minions decide they're not going to turn out in the midterms for a party that sells out to Elon Musk or sells out to H-1B immigrants, that could have a meaningful negative impact on MAGA movement. Or on the flip side, if Elon says, I'm tired of taking this BS, I'm going to take my huge megaphone on X and start trashing MAGA Americans as the R slur, as he did recently, that fissure could get people to stay home. And I think that from the Democrat side of things, whether any of these people are gettable, I think maybe so. This might be a really hard to hear triggering thing for some Democrats, but maybe there's just like one shred of a lesson from Bannon's anti-Musk message, right? Maybe the Democrats could kind of pick up this populist mantle of going after the big tech oligarchs, saying they don't actually care about your interests, they only care about themselves. Like, there might be a little bit of a potential shared message there that could be resonant for the Democrats. So I don't, at this point, it's kind of like, you could see it going either way as far as which side might be hemorrhaging people that might be gettable for Democrats, but it's certainly something that's going to that they're going to need to monitor.
Yeah, and it's not even about turning them into, in some ways it's so far away from what is viewed as sort of civil and small d democratic, but it is about animation. And if you depress any, Trump won by 237,000 votes across 7 states. I mean, every event, every fissure, to use your word, Tim, matters. And this one feels like a big one that isn't going away anytime soon.